Am I the butthole for telling my kids what their grandfather did to me? I've been with my husband since high school and his dad has always made me uncomfortable. Father-in-law adores, borderline worships, his wife and is very cold to everyone else. I always thought the family dynamic was a bit weird but everyone else was nice. Mother-in-law is questionable but I love his siblings. I got pregnant right out of high school and we needed financial help. Around the same time mother-in-law was diagnosed with late-stage cancer and the prognosis was not great. Father-in-law was devastated. I mean, he pretty much stopped speaking to anyone but her. Mother-in-law has always been vain and she had a nervous breakdown when she started losing her hair. They are well off and she had the best wigs money could buy. I guarantee most people didn't know she was wearing a wig, but it was very hard on her. I have long blonde hair, as did she. Apparently my hair was triggering her, so father-in-law told me it had to go. I told him that was unfair. He told me I could cut it or be homeless. I agreed and he took scissor and cut it off. I wasn't expecting him to just do it like that and it looked terrible. That was 10 years ago. Mother-in-law did make it, though it was a long road. All of father-in-law's kids view him as a hero because he took such good care of her, but I still hold a lot of resentment. My kids are not allowed around them without me or my husband present. The kids are pretty indifferent to father-in-law but adore mother-in-law and recently were questioning why they can't have sleepovers like their cousins do. I was honest about what he did and why I don't trust him. My kids ended up calling mother-in-law and father-in-law and confronting them. Mother-in-law made excuses and made it all about her. My 8-year-old daughter got very upset and said that she doesn't want to see them anymore. Mother-in-law swore at me, kids weren't present, and said I poisoned them against her. I said that her own husband's actions did that. Mother-in-law isn't talking to me currently and accused me of making fun of her cancer. She always plays the victim when she is cornered, but for the most part people are on my side. NTAO, my god, fairy tale villains have time traveled to the future. Seriously, an evil mother figure who's jealous of the daughter figure's beauty, an abusive father figure who torments a girl for being beautiful, traumatic haircutting against your will. They're from the Middle Ages. You told your kids the truth, and they made their own, right, judgment. As they get older, they'll find it more disgusting. Haircutting against someone's will is a very intimate, damaging, personal violation with all sorts of implications we won't go into here. If they both think it easy, fair and right, why should they care you told your kids? Haven't they proudly told everyone themselves? How they bravely cut a woman's hair despite her objections because the evil witch was jealous. They're not bragging about it? No, because they know it was wrong. You don't want people to think you're evil, don't do bad things. I'm so sorry you went through that. Congratulations on having the clarity and resolve to see them for what they are and to protect your kids from them. Don't give your kids any reason to think that's an appropriate way to act when you're jealous. If they both think it easy, fair and right, why should they care you told your kids? It always amazes me when people defend their actions as the only righteous way, and yet get super upset when someone makes those actions public. Sorry, you can't have it both ways. Glad most people are siding with you, good for you for telling your kids, and very not the butthole. One of my favorite quote I read recently, not sure who said it originally, is if you always do right, you'll always be right. Nothing to fear if you always try to do the right thing, even if someone makes it public. I mean, in general I agree, but people usually think they are doing the right thing even if others see it for what it is. Not if they aren't willing to be honest about it, they don't. Deep down, at least. What about things that are publicly unacceptable but you believe are morally okay, so you lie about it in public because you know what other people's, in your opinion incorrect, reaction will be? For example, a lot of gay people continued to deny having relations with the same sex after it became legal to do so because of social judgment, not because they knew that their actions were wrong. Sadly, the problem comes that people often believe they are doing something and they are right, when they are very, very wrong. Just look at what happened on Jan 6th. Here's another my great aunt used to say, it's nice to be important but it's more important to be nice, not directly applicable to this situation but good general advice. Also not the butthole. That might be true in the message it's trying to convey, and while I'm not disagreeing with you or your aunt, I just feel like I spent most of my life being nice. And then several years ago I turned 50 and I heard a better phrase, You don't have to be nice, but you do have to be kind. For centuries, women have been raised, admonished, told, that we should be nice, have to be nice. And that's what takes away our personal power, our ability to disagree, because it wouldn't be nice. Our ability to do what we need to do to protect ourselves, such as in a situation involving a man, where many women don't feel like they can say no. There are countless stories where she had an uncomfortable feeling about him or his intentions, but felt she had to be nice, polite, and bad things happened. Book reference The Gift of Fear, if memory serves. Proves the mentality because it wouldn't be nice, keeps or puts women in a vulnerable or harmful situation, and then she's too afraid to report because it's her word against his. The culture of our society wraps around the males with the what about his future? Without a care of what about hers. Women are left with the shame and expected to endure the guilt for something that they are not responsible for, especially if she didn't give consent. Whether they both consented or not, if she ends up pregnant, the burden is 100% on her. 0% on him. Or how in our culture, an aggressive guy, doing what guys do to get ahead in the business world is applauded, yet a woman doing the exact same thing is called derogatory terms. The rhyme describing girls as sugar and spice and everything nice is where it starts. Girls are told to play nice but boys are told play fair. Translation is between boys, men who are equal. In responding, I didn't intend to make this a rant, and while the last few years have seen change, from Me Too, through the BLM, and everything that happened in 2020, my opinion of what we need to do next is lose all the superficial niceties and find an agreement in kindness, honesty, empathy, and not going back to a culture of broken and dysfunctional. Equality can't truly begin until women have been granted constitutional access. The United States Constitution was written to give white men the rights listed. It was amended, after the Civil War, to include black men. It was amended again to give women the right to vote, and again to protect civil liberties, etc. But the Constitution has never been amended to include women with equal rights. This is what the Equal Rights Amendment was yet again attempting to do in the 70s, and how, based on fear, those women campaigning against it did such a disservice to generations of women in holding us back. And is exactly why the father-in-law of original poster thought he could do what he did without regards to her personal body? He is a male believed he has the right to tell her what to do. To demand it be done immediately. For me to have to experience the countless stories about how I was treated from in-laws, husband number 1, husband number 2, and husband number 3. Lack of boundaries you wouldn't believe. I'm so sorry the original poster had to go through that, is now having to go through this. I was never forced to do anything so blatantly, but there was multiple extremely coerced events that none of my objections were ever heard. My life was endangered, threatened, and nearly ended. Often, I've been told that I should write a book about everything. I'm not kidding that the Lifetime Movie Network would need a full month of daily movies if I did. Not because I'm a victim, but because everything that happened to me is from a lack of power over my own life, not from the perspective of poor me, but because women are not respected, guys have the good old boys club and women are in competition against each other. Look at every magazine out there. It's either about how to please him, balance everything, or who wore what better. Without women, men wouldn't be here. I'll step off my soapbox and say thank you for sharing. Hugging face, 2 hearts, heart, black heart, growing heart. You're so right. I'm raising 3 girls and I don't tell them they have to be nice to people. They have to be respectful in most situations, but they also know that when someone loses your respect, for whatever reason, that's their problem and respect is no longer required nor given. I won't raise my girls thinking it's mean to say they don't want to have sex or do a drug or whatever. Strong women is what this world needs to right the ship, and it won't happen if everyone is concerned with being nice. I like the general principle, but I tend to feel that it can oversimplify matters. I mean, that's what general principles do. It's good to have a broad rule to meander along with. And I try to stick with this one myself. I try to be open about my reasoning whenever it's fair and appropriate to do so. But sometimes a position is complicated, or you genuinely feel that you've done the right thing in a way that will be hard to explain well, or that it will be very readily misunderstood by people if you're not given the opportunity to provide more detail, like if it trips over some common misapprehension of an idea, or a common logical fallacy, and often we're not given that opportunity, or freeze like a deer in headlights when we are. I think in this case original poster is absolutely NTA, because this was a profoundly cruel and awful thing for the Phil to do to her, and his being in pain doesn't justify that. I also think it's good she told the kids the truth, They were asking fair questions, and that means either refusing to answer, misleading, if not lying outright, well, telling the truth. And telling the truth doesn't always make things easy, but it does keep things relatively simple. But there's always a good comeback to "you must have known it was wrong, or you wouldn't have hidden it," and that is, "No, I thought it was right, and I thought you would disagree with me," and making it public means having to exhaustively explain myself because I can see how it can look bad if you don't have all the information. Mind you, it's not a snappy comeback. Looking back, this was the biggest red flag for how my egg donor treated me, and it flew right over my head. Everything was a family matter, but not that family, extended, and never this family, because you shouldn't complain. If I dared to say anything to my own father, I was punished severely, but when I would ask why, because he is my family, it would be a household matter. But she never did anything wrong, right? Why should we hide it? If this is normal. Because it's a private matter, don't say a word. The only time she let it slip that the outside world didn't agree with her was when CPS was knocking on her door and she needed me to cover for her. She would threaten me about how she would go to jail and it would be my fault. How, since my sister and I have different fathers, when she went to jail I would never see my sister again. On and on. But she wasn't doing wrong, right? I wanted so badly for her to be a good mom that I believed her hook, line, and sinker. So glad I've moved past that now, though. It's completely a defense mechanism for someone who knows what they did was wrong but don't want to admit it to themselves. It's the sign of a weak mind. I feel like this comment answers so many "am I the butthole" posts in one simple logic. Slightly related. This post gave me a horrible flashback. When I was 12, I was growing out my hair, being an self-owned individual. My aunt didn't like that it was in my face. Only girls have long hair, so she forced her much older than me sons, she was super abusive towards them, to hold me down so she could shave my head. Poorly and aggressively. Oh boy, I have no contact with her, and my last words to her would have my comment removed if repeated. Op is not the butthole, and what the in-laws did is unforgivable and reprehensible. But also I didn't expect to get randomly triggered by this type of post. Shrug. My son has longish hair and his dad and dad's siblings are always up his ass about it. He's been growing it since he was 7, it's just past his shoulders and it's gorgeous and wavy. Luckily he has a lot of confidence about his appearance and very set opinions about what he wants to look like. He told them if they give him $800 he'll cut it, and I said that's perfect because he can just grow it back and he'll have $800. His dad has mostly shut up about it, but his aunts always have to say something, which is super annoying. I'm sorry that was done to you, if someone did that to my child. The very least of what would happen is they'd lose their eyebrows and the very center strip of their hair. I'm glad you're NC with that awful aunt. Her punishment is being herself. Honestly, I don't know how people like that can stand themselves. Please give yourself a big from me. Makes me happy to hear about your son standing his ground and you defending him. She's honestly a horrible and rotten woman, who I have many stories about. None of which are good. But I appreciate your kind words and support. Oh, my opinion is $800 is not enough. He needs to up that dollar. Besides, if they ever decide to pay up, not only will he have the cash, he can donate the hair to Locks for Love or something like that, where they use it to make wigs for kids and others with cancer. It's so awesome that your son is doing him, in the just keep being you mindset. Good job, mama. He didn't get there by himself. Hugging face, revolving hearts. Hi. I'm just popping on to say don't donate to Locks of Love. They make children pay an obscene amount of money for wigs. Rather than do it back to her, I'd file assault charges with my local police. NTA, wow, what he did to you was horrible. He took away your autonomy and threatened to make you homeless if you didn't give it up. Honestly, you should go NC. I would have if I could with just him, but mother-in-law didn't know. Her shock was very real when she heard what he did almost a year later. I think that after her reaction, you can reevaluate the relationship and maybe go NC. You told the kids the facts. She learned about it 9 years ago and still makes excuses for father-in-law and made it all about her. Info: there's lots of details missing here. So other than the single, hair-cutting event, what is the rest of your relationship with them like? Has the inappropriateness of that incident ever been discussed with them since? Most importantly, where is your husband in all this? What was his response to his father cutting your hair? How does he feel about you telling your children this? It's one thing to request someone cut their hair because your sick wife is upset about it. I think that crosses a line, but asking isn't really the end of the world. But this guy threatened to make them homeless, and then took scissors to her hair when she didn't expect it. That is assault in my book. Also assault in many legal jurisdictions. He never had a great relationship with his dad. Father-in-law was kind of a hard-ass, but he feels bad for punishing his mom. She 100% didn't know until almost a year after the fact. She can't act, and that was genuine shock. He wishes the kids could go over but respects my decision. My relationship with mother-in-law is okay. Father-in-law ignores me for the most part, has always been an ass to my husband for not working a white-collar job, and is okay with the kids but isn't a kid person in general. She was jealous of your hair, so she saw you often. Was she surprised your hair was short all of a sudden? I think she might be playing dumb so she doesn't seem like the bad guy. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.